What I've been told about the genesis of Hokule'a and change is I would be 5 years old when a surfer who became an anthropologist in Santa Barbara would do his postdoctorate work in Hawaii, and a woman professor there, which you can count them on one hand back then. Her name is Catherine Luamala. She would hand him 2 books and said, read them, they're wrong, and change it. That is the seed of Hokule'a, 1958.
And what were the 2 books?
Kon-Tiki, and the others, the author was a well-known global anthropologist by the name of Andrew Sharp. They said, they have canoes and they sail, but they don't essentially have the intelligence to navigate more than 100 miles. For us, how do you explain Hawaii?
Was that accidental drift?
Yeah, it was accidental drift plus like getting blown by storms and off course, thousands of miles.
Thor Heyerdahl, who claims against all evidence that Polynesia has been settled from South America. He doesn't tell the world that the sails on the Kon-Tiki didn't exist in pre-Columbian Peru. He doesn't tell the world that to get beyond the Humboldt Current, he needed the Peruvian Navy. His 3 lines of non-evidence are superficial resemblance of stones in the Incaic civilization with what he finds at Rapa Nui. Resemblances that no trained archaeologist would take as being significant. And then, of course, he claims it would have been impossible for the Polynesians to sail into the prevailing easterlies, but that problem had been solved by Tupaia and Cook if he had only read Cook's journals, right? And his only meaningful evidence of American origins was the fact that the sweet potato is found throughout the Pacific, which now we know means only that the Polynesians got to South America and came home.
Ben took the books, and then he started to work on an idea about building a voyaging canoe. Then he made a phone call. A decade later, in 1968, he called Chicago, and he called a painter, a sculptor. His name was Herb Gavai-Nuikane. And so science and culture was at the genesis of building Hokule'a. But that phone call that was made would change the world, our world. Genesis was really, to me, was an issue of justice. That Ben, in his research, knew that the impression and the education of the earth about this country called Polynesia was wrong. And he knew that the education about the intelligence of brown people on beat-up canoes was wrong. And it was really a justice issue. And then you had Herb with the dream that if we don't reclaim our culture, we'll be people no more. It was the dream and it was the justice that came together. It was brilliant.
Heyerdahl achieved one thing really remarkable. In insulting the Polynesians, he forced the Polynesians to sail. And at the same time, he obliged the archaeologists to dig. And out of those 2 things were some of the seeds of the Renaissance that you've been such a part of. And so that deep history, I think, is something that people need to know, that Hokule'a and the entire Renaissance is not something quaint and colorful. It's not just some folkloric thing. It represents the reclaiming of a stolen legacy.